to the Sports Talk podcast on Tuesday, April 9th at 11 p.m. with your host, Alec Pecado. Tonight, I'm giving you my bold predictions for the Mid-American Conference. Let's get into it. So here's my standings prediction for the MAC East Division for 2024. Bold predictions. So these are before the season. Finishing at first at 11-3 is Miami of Ohio. They returned most of everybody they had last year. I just think they're the most experienced team in the MAC. Finishing second in the MAC East Division is Bowling Green at 10-4. I think Bowling Green is in for a huge season this year. Finishing in third in the MAC East Division at 9-4 is Ohio University. Now, you can flip-flop these three teams. One of these three teams is going to finish in first, second, or third place. Finishing in fourth at 7-5 is Akron. For me, the reason Akron's going to finish at 7-5 is because I don't know a lot about their roster this year going into the season. And I'm not particularly high on whoever their quarterback's going to be. So that is why they're going to finish 7-5 and finish fourth place. Finishing in fifth place in the MAC at 6-6 is Buffalo. Buffalo does get bowl eligible this year and makes a bowl game. But I don't have that much of an expectation for them. And finishing last place in the MAC East Division is Kent State with a record of 4-8. And now, before we get to the MAC West Division, we are going to do schedule preview / giving these teams their however many wins they have and however many losses. So let's get to the MAC East Division first. Screen share. No, that's not what we need. Hold up, ladies and gentlemen. It seems like I apologize for the technical difficulties. There it is right there. So we're going to start with Miami of Ohio. So Miami of Ohio starts the season August 31st at Northwestern. And here's my theory on this game. Miami of Ohio always starts the season against a Big Ten team. And it's no different in 2024. Now, site and city is to be determined because I think Northwestern's working on their new stadium. But I think Miami of Ohio is going to start the season 1-0. And then they come out of the bye week. And September 14th, they play Cincinnati at home. I think they beat Cincinnati for the second straight year. Week 4, they play at Notre Dame. And unfortunately, this is where they lose their first game. Notre Dame is going to be one of the best independent teams in college football this year. And I think Notre Dame beats them. I do think Miami keeps it relatively close. But they lose. But they get back on the winning side and go to 3-1 after beating UMass. Then they get into conference play, and they start conference play at Toledo. This is going to be their second loss of the season. So they're now 3-2 on the year. I have them going to 4-2 after beating Eastern Michigan. I don't think Eastern Michigan is going to be that good. You will see their record prediction in a few minutes. And then, so they're 4-2. I think they go to 5-2 after beating Ohio. Ohio is going to be third place in the MAC, but I think they lose to Miami. And Miami of Ohio goes to 5-3 after getting beat by Central Michigan. So they're 5-3 coming out of their bye week, and they get their last. I'm not going to call this a gauntlet, but they get Ball State on the road. That's going to be a win, 6-3. 7-3 after beating Kent State. 8-3 after beating Northern Illinois. And 9-3 after beating Bowling Green. Something seems a little off here. So they beat Northwestern 1-0. They beat Cincinnati 2-0. Lose to Notre Dame 2-1. Beat UMass 3-1. Lose to Toledo 3-2. Beat Eastern Michigan 4-2. Beat Ohio 5-2. Lose to Central Michigan 5-3. Beat Ball State 6-3. Beat Kent State 7-3. Beat Northern Illinois 8-3. And beat Bowling Green 9-3. So my record prediction, I know it says 11-3, but I think that's a prediction. This is their way too early record prediction for me. Now we go over to Bowling Green. 10-4. So they're going to start the year at home against Fordham. I think that's a win. So they're 1-0. Then they go to Penn State. September 7th at Penn State. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be a loss. So they're 1-1. They come off their bye week. And September 21st, they play at Texas A&M. This is going to be a coin flip for me because it's the first year of the Mike Elko led Texas A&M. I think, and call me crazy, I think they upset A&M. Every year A&M gets upset by a team they're not supposed to lose to. So that makes Bowling Green 2-1. They play Old Dominion. That's a win. They're 3-1. They beat Akron 4-1. They beat Northern Illinois 5-1. Beat Kent State 6-1. Lose to Toledo 6-2. Beat Central Michigan 7-2. Beat Western Michigan 8-2. Beat Ball State 9-2 and lose to Miami of Ohio 9-3. So the first two MAC schools, and my calculations may be a little off, but the first two MAC East schools are going 9-3. Now we get to the Bobcats of Ohio. They start the year at Syracuse. I think that's going to be a win. So they're 1-0. Then they play South Alabama at home. They win that. So they're 2-0. They beat Morgan State 3-0. They lose to Kentucky 3-1. Beat Akron 4-1. October 12th, they play at Central Michigan. So they're 4-1 going into that game. I think they come out of that game. I think they beat Central Michigan. They go to 5-1. Then they go to Miami of Ohio. I think they lose that, so they're 5-2. They beat Buffalo 6-2. Lose to Kent State 6-3. Beat Eastern Michigan 7-3. Lose to Toledo 7-4. And beat Ball State 8-4. So Ohio goes 8-4. Akron, they start the year at Ohio State. That's going to be a loss. So they're 0-1. Rutgers, that's a toss-up. Do they lose to? I think they beat Rutgers, so they're 1-1. They should be 2-1 after Colgate. They lose to South Carolina 2-2. Lose to Ohio 2-3. 7-5. So they're 2-3. They beat Bowling Green. They beat Bowling Green, so they're 3-3. Lose to Western Michigan 3-4. Beat Eastern Michigan 4-4. Beat Buffalo 5-4. Beat Northern Illinois 6-4. Lose to Kent State 6-5. And somehow they beat Toledo 7-5. Buffalo. Their record thing 6-6. Like I said, Buffalo starts the year at home against Lafayette. They beat Lafayette. Then they go to Mizzou, and I think they lose to Mizzou, so they're 1-1. Then they beat UMass 2-1. Beat UConn 3-1. Lose to Toledo 3-2. Beat Western Michigan 4-2. Lose to Ohio 4-3. Beat Akron 5-3. Beat Ball State 6-3. No, lose to Ball State 5-4. Lose to okay, so we're gonna have to redo Buffalo. So they beat Lafayette 1-0. Lose to Missouri. They lose to Missouri 1-1. Beat UMass 2-1. Lose to Northern Illinois 2-2. Beat UConn 3-2. Lose to Toledo 3-3. Beat Western Michigan 4-3. Lose to Ohio 4-4. Beat Akron 5-4. Lose to Ball State 4-5. Beat Western Michigan 5-5. And beat Kent State 6-5. So Buffalo, instead of going 5-5, they go 6-5. So And then the last one in the MAC East Division is Kent State. And they're only going to win 4 games. They start the year at Pittsburgh. I think that's going to be a win, so they're 1-0. They're going to start 2-0 after beating St. Francis. And they go to 2-2 after losing to Penn State and Tennessee. They go to 3-2 after beating Eastern Michigan. Then they come out of their first bye week. They play Ball State. That's a loss. 3-3. Lose to Bowling Green. 3-4. Lose to Western Michigan. 3-5. Lose to Ohio. 3-6. Lose to Miami of Ohio. 3-7. Lose to Akron. 3-8. And beat Buffalo 4-8. So they go 4-8. And that is their record. Now we get to the last part. So Toledo 12-2. Northern Illinois 9-4. Central Michigan 8-5. Ball State 6-6. Western Michigan 5-7, and Eastern Michigan 4-8. And share. Who is this? Hold up. Here we go. So Toledo starts the year at home against Duquesne, so they're going to be 1-0. Then they go at home against UMass. They're 2-0. Then they get 2, I'm going to call them hyper tough road games. And I think they split them. They beat Mississippi State to go to 3-0, and then lose to Western Kentucky 3-1. And they lose to Miami of Ohio, so they're 3-2. They beat Buffalo 4-2. Beat Northern Illinois 5-2. Beat Bowling Green 6-2. Beat Eastern Michigan 7-2. Beat Central Michigan 8-2. Beat Ohio 9-2, and beat Akron 10-2. So they go 10-2. Does Toledo. Northern Illinois. They start against Western Illinois at home. They're going to be 1-0. Then they go to Notre Dame. That's going to be a loss. So they're 1-1. Then they play Buffalo. That's going to be a win. So they're 2-1. Then they play at NC State. Lost 2-2. Beat UMass 3-2. At Bowling Green. That's going to be a loss 3-3. At Toledo. At home against Toledo. Loss 3-4. Beat Ball State 4-4. Beat Western Michigan 5-4. Beat Akron 6-4. Lose to Miami, Ohio 6-5. Lose to. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, this is Northern Illinois. They're supposed to go 9-4. We're gonna redo this. So they start at home against Western Illinois, win. Lose to Notre Dame 1-1. Beat Buffalo 2-1. Can I see them beating North Carolina State? Yes. Do they? Maybe. I'm gonna give it a win right now. So they're 3-1. They're gonna be 4-1 after beating UMass. They beat Bowling Green, so they're 5-1. Lose to Toledo 5-2. beat Ball State 6-2, beat Western Michigan 7-2, 7-3 after losing to Akron 7-4 after losing to Miami of Ohio, and 8-4 after beating Central Michigan. Yep. Now, Central Michigan. They start the year at home against Central Connecticut State. That's a win. At FAU, that's a win. FIU, that's a win. They're going to start 3-0. I think they beat their first three opponents, so they're 3-0. Then they play Ball State. That's going to be a win. So they're 4-0. Going into the San Diego State game at home. Do they beat San Diego State? No. I think they lose to San Diego State, so they're 4-1. And then they get back into conference play, and they've got Ohio, Eastern Michigan, and Miami of Ohio. I think they go 1-2. So that makes them 5-3. So then they get Bowling Green to finish out the season. They get Bowling Green, Toledo, Western Michigan, Northern Illinois. So we're going to go 6-3 after they beat Bowling Green, 6-4 after they lose to Toledo, 7-4 after they beat Western Michigan in 8, and 7-5 after they lose to Northern Illinois. Again, these are just bold predictions. Now, when the season comes around, I could be completely wrong. So here's Ball State's schedule. State 6. Okay. So Ball State starts the year at home against Missouri State. That's a win. Then they go to Miami of Florida. I think that's going to be a loss. So they're 1-1. They beat their rival Central Michigan, so they're 2-1. Then they get James Madison on the road. That's a loss, 2-2. Western Michigan win, 3-2. Kent State 4-2 win, 5-2 after they beat Vanderbilt. Then they go to Northern Illinois, and I think they lose at NIU, so they're now 4-3. Then they get Miami of Ohio. That's going to be a loss, 4-4. Beat Buffalo, 5-4. No. Lose to Buffalo, 4-6. Beat Bowling Green, 5-6, and beat Ohio, 6-6. So they go 6-6. And we've got two more schools left, Western Michigan and Eastern Michigan. So Western Michigan starts the year at Camp Randall against Wisconsin. They will lose that game, and they will lose to Ohio State, so they'll be 0-2. They beat Bethune-Cookman to go to 1-2. I think they beat Marshall, so they're 2-2 now. And they get into conference play, starting against Ball State. Unfortunately, I think they lose to Ball State. So they are now 2-3 on the year. Then they lose to Akron, 2-4. Then they lose to Northern Illinois, 2-5. 3-5 after they beat Bowling Green, 4-5 after they beat Central Michigan. Oh, I'm missing something here. So they lose to Wisconsin, lose to Ohio State, beat Bethune-Cookman. So they're 1-2, 2-2 after beating Marshall, 3-2 after beating Ball State, 4-2 after beating Akron, 4-3 after losing to Kent State, Buffalo, and 4-4. Yeah, 4-4 after losing to Kent State, 5-4 after beating Northern Illinois, and then 5-5 after losing to Bowling Green, 5-6 after losing to Central Michigan, and 5-7 after losing to Eastern Michigan. So Western Michigan goes 5-7. And so then we get one more, and it's Eastern Michigan. I have them going 4-8. So they start the year at UMass. That's a win. Then they play at Washington. That's going to be a loss. Then they play Jacksonville State at home. Win. So they're 2-1. St. Francis, they're going to be 3-1. They'll beat Kent State 4-1. Lose to Miami 4-2. Lose to Central Michigan 4-3. Lose to Akron 4-4. Lose to Toledo 4-5. Lose to Ohio 4-6. Lose to Buffalo 4-7, and lose to Western Michigan 4-8. Okay, so now we can stop sharing. Here. And now the last part of the show is the MAC Conference Championship game. My three predictions for the Conference Championship game in the MAC this year are a rematch between Miami of Ohio and Toledo, with Miami of Ohio winning. You've got Northern Illinois versus Bowling Green, with Bowling Green winning, and Ohio versus Central Michigan, with Ohio winning. Now, again, these could change. I'm going to do full-on conference previews at the beginning of August before the season starts. And since this is a college football video, I know I've been saying it on the last few videos that I've been doing. September 5th through the 9th, the Sports Talk podcast will be in Blacksburg, Virginia, for Virginia Tech Marshall. We will be broadcasting live for 4 days straight from Virginia Tech and Marshall. You will get inside access to everything from what I do during the day to if I interview anybody, and you will be getting special videos those 4 days. And that's a little teaser to, if you look at September 4th, the video that day will tell you what I am doing every day that I'm in, that the Sports Talk podcast is in Blacksburg. And this is what the old merch looks like. The new merch is up on the website. As well as, if you haven't already, please leave a thumbs up on the video. And please also remember to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And please comment down. Remember to leave your comments down below. I do answer comments. But that does it tonight for the Sports Talk podcast. I will see you guys on Thursday afternoon. No, Thursday morning at 10 o'clock for another Sports Talk podcast episode. Have a lovely rest of your Tuesday night. Goodbye.